Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you made the choice to watch our show this evening and joining us for another episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast with your hosts Steve Hodgson and Dr. Eric L. Davis.
Well, howdy, and welcome to the Your Life Matters Show podcast special edition. I'm your host, Steve Hodgson, and I guess you've noticed my co-host, Dr. Eric L. Davis, is not sitting right next to me as usual. At the time of taping, Dr. Davis's family is dealing with a very serious health issue with one of his nieces, and he's standing by his brother and sister-in-law's side during this trying time. In fact, he's there for the entire Davis family. I want you to know these people are my very close friends. For many years in Indiana, they made me feel like part of the family, and know that my heart, as well as my wife Jennifer's heart, goes out to all of them. We're praying for you, and I ask that for all of you praying people that are out there, please, your prayers will always help both the girl and her family. She has two brothers whom I can only imagine their young minds are trying to comprehend everything that's going on. I know I feel better that Dr. Davis and his wife, therapist Erin Davis, are there to support the family during this time of need. So before we get into tonight's episode, I want to once again introduce our sponsor, Waypost Counseling.
Let's face it, life can feel like too much at times. Stress, loss, big changes. They can leave us feeling lost. But taking the step to reach out for help, that takes real strength. That's why Waypost Counseling exists. Founded in 2020 by Dr. Eric L. Davis and licensed therapist Erin Davis, Waypost Counseling was created to be more than a counseling office. It's a place where people are heard, supported, and given the tools to move forward. Waypost Counseling offers more than just therapy sessions. They provide individual and couples counseling, specialized help for problem gambling, and consulting services. Their team supports adults facing ADHD, grief, addiction, relationship struggles, and major transitions in life. The name Waypost captures their heart. It's a marker along the path, helping you see where you are and where you want to go. Therapy doesn't have to feel overwhelming. At Waypost Counseling, you'll find honesty, warmth, and practical solutions that create lasting change. Whether you're in Indiana or anywhere in the U.S., you can connect with them in person or online. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The first step is what matters. Visit waypostcounseling.com or call 317-762-0904 to connect with Dr. Eric Davis, or 317-659-0179 to reach Erin Davis. Waypost Counseling is certified by the Indiana FSSA Division of Mental Health and Addiction and the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Abuse. Remember, you know that your life matters, and right now your next step matters. Make the call today.
Now, first, I want to say thanks to all of you that are joining us this evening. We are now over 5,000 subscriber mark, and both Dr. Davis and I are overjoyed and so grateful to all of you. If you're watching this tonight and you're not a subscriber, please take a second, hit the like and subscribe button. Also, if you can leave a message for us as well, I'm sure Dr. Davis would appreciate a message of encouragement right now. Now, last week, Dr. Davis and I did a show called Random Acts of Kindness and Mental Health. Small Gestures, Big Impact. Well, we sort of ran out of time before we were able to bring our guests in last week. So we're covering something many of us do not think about, and that's the mental health benefits of helping others, and especially the mental health benefit to the person who really does need your help. It can be a visit to a shut-in's home, mowing someone's lawn for them, visiting them in the hospital, bringing them food and clothing, and so much more. It can also be the people who have just experienced a natural disaster, such as flooding or a hurricane. We've seen plenty of that here in the United States just in the past 12 months. There are many, many Americans today that are in need and need our help. So, I mentioned mowing lawns. I find myself watching these videos on YouTube all the time. Think about that. Hal Blades, I call him the OG of the trend. Sean from Midlife Stockman, SB Mowing, and one of my favorites, the Blessing Boys. You also have Ben and his family from Flawless Cleaning, and they're over in the UK doing this. And there's so many things of going around the community, some of the garbage companies just cleaning up areas, not their clients, but going around and keeping the areas really clean. Now, you see, I love the Blessing Boys since the dad is teaching his 4 boys that it may be hard work, but that they're helping change someone's life. Maybe give them the kickstart to drive again. And they're doing it all for free. There's videos of a guy who paints people's homes for $1. There's another group that power washes people's driveways and walkways for free, and so much more. Now, I know I can hear some of you say, well, they're making YouTube money from commercials. That is true. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. But they've also started a trend of people helping other people. And tonight's podcast, I hope, is going to be no exception. Now, I'm not going to speak to these YouTube stars. No, tonight I want to talk to 2 different groups of volunteers who are making a difference, not only in their own community, but throughout the United States. We will first talk this evening to Mary Beth Bell. She's the CEO of Chuck's Piggy Bank, a Florida-based nonprofit dedicated to helping people and their pets stay together during difficult times. I will also talk to my old friend and longtime friend of the Your Life Matters show, Travis Short. He will talk to us about David's legacy. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the 2 interviews that I conducted with these amazing people who run 2 very amazing organizations. Now, the show's going to be different. It's not going to be me asking questions and Dr. Davis answering. Dr. Davis isn't here right now. But we are going to talk and ask questions to our guests, and we're going to learn more about their organizations. So let's get started. Our next guest is someone whose kindness doesn't just touch lives, it saves them. When people go through a crisis, whether it's homelessness, financial hardships, or the challenges faced by our veterans, the emotional toll can be overwhelming. And for so many, the pets are their family. It's their comfort and often their only source of unconditional love. See, that's where our guest comes in today. Joining us this evening is Mary Beth Bell. She's the CEO of an organization called Chuck's Piggy Bank. It's a Florida-based nonprofit dedicated to helping people and their pets stay together during difficult times, whether it's providing temporary shelter, help with veterinary care, or even emergency support. Mary Beth and her team ensure that no one has to face separation from their beloved animals when life gets really hard. Well, Mary Beth, thank you for joining the Your Life Matters Show podcast. We're so glad to have you here with us and share your story and the incredible work you and Chuck's Piggy Bank are doing. Now, for those who are hearing all of this for the first time, including me, okay, hearing some of this, can you describe what Chuck's Piggy Bank does and who it serves?
Sure. Chuck's Piggy Bank is a resource for not only animal rescue, animal sanctuaries, individuals who are struggling with income, who have pets, both housed and unhoused individuals. And we also serve the veteran community because many of them are in those similar situations. And so we provide resources in the way of food. If they are having trouble feeding the animals that are in their care, we will either send food or personally deliver food. We currently have 23 animal rescues in a 4-county area here in Central Florida that we consider our partners. And we also have 2 pet pantries here in Ocala, one at Veterans Helping Veterans and one at Saving Mercy, Mercy Village, that we keep stocked for anybody to go in and get food. We also provide monetary resources for veterinary care. Nothing is worse than taking your pet to the vet, thinking everything's okay, only to find out that something really bad is going on and the price goes from the couple hundred that you planned on to maybe 1,000 or more. And that's when we can help bridge the gap, not only with Chuck's Piggy Bank, but we partner with other organizations in the area that do the same kind of thing so that we can build the resource also.
Now, how did that get started? I mean, who came up with the idea? What even the name Chuck's Piggy Bank? I mean, Piggy Bank, yeah, I can see, but who's Chuck for that matter?
Chuck, Chuck was the kitty love of my life. I
Okay.
was volunteering at Vocal, which is a local animal shelter, during COVID when we couldn't be with people. Animals were a better alternative because of all the scares and everything going on. So I decided to volunteer. Well, Chuck came in as a stray. He was injured. He was a beautiful all white cat. He just was perfect in every way. I had would visit him at the shelter regularly because at the same time, my mother was in hospice care at the nursing home. So there was kind of a parallel. I would make a circle during the day. I'd go to the nursing home, visit with mom, then stop at the shelter and spend some time with Chuck. Because, visits with a hospice patient can be very emotional, and Chuck was a comfort. So he got adopted one day from Vocal, and I was so pleased because I already had two kitties and I really wasn't looking to have another one. And then they brought him back because he went to a house with a dog. He was terrified of dogs. And so when he came back, he had lost a little bit of his confidence. He was shaking, just not the same kitty. And I was cuddling him one day and he just rested his head on my shoulder. And that was it.
That was
I
it.
was done. And so we used to, when I was raising money for Vocal, friends of mine, we would play bingo. And when there would be and we'd always split the proceeds. And when there was an odd dollar or two, they'd say, oh, put it in Chucky's piggy bank. So Chuck had a piggy bank before there was a Chuck's Piggy Bank. And that was to help Vocal. I built outdoor kitty playhouses there and did some other projects for them. So that's where it really started. Once Chuck came to me, he was only with me 9 months and he passed away very suddenly. He was only, thank you, he was only 3 years old and I was broken. My heart just broke because he really was my kitty. There was no disputing that. So I waited. I still have the other two kitties and they're wonderful and I love them, but they weren't Chuck. He was a different personality. So I waited a couple years and I started interviewing some of the smaller rescues that I had become acquainted with at Vocal. Started asking them questions. I knew I couldn't intake animals because of where I live and the devastation of Chuck. I didn't want to do that anymore and risk that. But I said, there's got to be something that we could do in Chuck's memory. So I started asking around and I got the same answers from everyone. The medical bills are overwhelming. We run short of food. There are more animals than we can support monetarily with just our rescue funds. And that was my answer.
See, I know so many times if my wife and I will be going someplace and we see someone that has a pet that just they don't take care of it,
Right,
and I don't want to say abuse the animal, but it is
right.
abusing the animal.
It is.
Yeah. Leave a dog on a leash all day outside, or, sometimes they just like throw the cat outside and just
Right,
let the cat try to fend for itself. You
right.
know, I've had like five cats in my lifetime. Luckily they've always gotten along with the dogs too, so
Yeah.
it's always been really well. Uh, but how did you come across then the funding to be able to turn, you know, Chuck's Piggy Bank into what it is today?
Well, it's been a process. We've had many blessings, I must say. I have a wonderful mentor. He's a military gentleman that lives here in the community. I met him and we sat across the table one night at a social gathering. And I started talking to him about what I was thinking. And he said, well, give me a call when you're ready to get serious and let's get some paperwork done. So we did. And I originally thought that I was going to go for the easy, under 50,000, 501c. And he said, no, ma'am, you're not doing that because I think this is going to be a winner and you need to leave your possibilities open. Well, bless him, because we would have already been over that for the coming years. So, um, you have to file all the paperwork and it takes forever. And then once you get there, people say I have a gift. I don't know that I have a gift. I've never done this before, but we started out doing some very down home things like bake sales and jewelry parties where the jewelry company donates 50% of the sales. And all of a sudden, people got acquainted with what we were doing and they liked it. And then the donations started rolling in. And of course, friends and family are our biggest supporters always. People in the On Top of the World community are very supportive. But now we've gotten to go out into Ocala more, and we made it our mission for the first year of existence. We've only been in existence about 18 months. And the first year of our existence, it was my goal to get in every publication, get out into the community in every place that I possibly could.
But see, many people, I don't think they realize how deeply connected pets are to their emotional, even their mental health.
Right.
I mean, that's why I can see what you were saying there. Once you start doing it, people, I mean, anyone that owns a pet will tell you that their pet's their child.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sort of same way. That was your child.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it hurts just as bad losing a child, as losing a pet. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yes.
And I know people who say different. I don't care. If you own a pet and you love a pet, I mean, I've gone through, when we came up here, we had three dogs.
Okay.
My wife had a little Chihuahua that her mom, the last gift she got from her mom, for her mom had passed, they had a litter of Chihuahuas. And we had two Shelties. They were
Oh, okay.
sisters. And
Yes.
when we came up here within a couple of months, within 3 days of each other, we lost two of the dogs.
Oh.
One had bone cancer.
Mm.
The Sheltie just couldn't come up the steps one night. I got like three little steps to get into my house, couldn't come up the steps. And we
Oh.
rushed her to the hospital and we had to put her to sleep that night. It was, don't ever want to go back there again. And then
Yes.
when my wife was taking her test to see if she had got the CCMA to become a nurse, the other dog already was having heart problems. And we were like, what are we going to do? I mean, we knew her time was limited.
Hmm.
And I said, by the time I drive you to the school and drive you back, this dog's going to be dead. Don't leave
Oh.
me with that. Okay, so we actually went and had her put to sleep there. And I can tell you that's the second time, probably 10, 11 years, where I lost two pets in 3 days.
Wow. That's hard.
Oh,
That's
it's
hard.
it's absolutely incredible. So anyone who says no, that it's not, it's the same thing. Yes, it is. It's the same
Yes.
thing. I think we spend just as much, if not more time with our pets sometimes than we do with our children.
Right.
Our children go off all day, they go to school. Our pets are still here, During the
Right.
night, I don't know, in your case, but my pets sleep in bed with me.
Yes.
They're there all the time with me. So it's
Right.
important. So what happens if somebody, for whatever reason, whether it be a natural disaster or even finances, has to go into a shelter? What happens to that pet when they go into a shelter?
Well, sadly, there's a lot of different scenarios. The best scenario is that they would contact a rescue or someone like me who has a
Hmm.
lot of rescue contacts. And we try to get the animal put into either a temporary foster or into a shelter situation for adoption if they don't feel that they're going to be able to have them. Sometimes when people go into nursing homes and things like
Right.
that, that's when it gets hard. The sad reality is that a lot of different things happen. Family members let the animal just out and figure that somebody's going to pick it up. They put the animal in a box and put it on the doorstep of a veterinary office or a hardware store or whatever, or they just turn the animal loose. And that is a horrible thing for that animal who has been loved and taken care of and had a safe place to just be turned out like that. It's heartbreaking and it breaks the animal's spirit. It's terrible. And, if they even take them to a shelter, some dogs especially do not do well in a shelter
No.
situation. So the foster situation is absolutely the best, or rehoming them to somebody who would love the animal just like their original person.
I think, we with the show is on mental health, but I honestly believe pets go through a trauma of being separated from their owners. I
They
mean, those are
absolutely
the
do.
only people that they know. And
Yes,
I don't think family members, I know it's got to be terrible for someone going into, hospice or something that knows
yes,
that they're not going to be around, that there isn't someone to take care of their pet,
yes,
and because number one, that pet's got to deal with no longer having their owner around them. And then, now all of a sudden I'm in a brand new place,
right.
all these strangers around me, and that could take a long time for that pet to adjust to that. But
Yes.
like you say, it's much better than being turned out into the street.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And one thing that sometimes people don't realize, especially with assisted living, there are assisted livings across our country and even here in Ocala that will allow their person to take their pet. They can bring a
Hmm.
small dog, they can have a kitty, and families don't realize that, nor do they look for it. They just immediately move mom or dad, and the animal gets cast aside.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of those places don't even advertise that and tell people, oh, you can bring that pet with you because they
Right.
probably rather they don't,
Well,
which is sad.
possibly. I've come across one here that is wonderful. They actually will help walk the dog if the person cannot, and they're
Hmm.
very, very loving towards animals. So, it just depends. So many situations, so many scenarios.
Yeah, it's sad. Now, what situations do you see most here in Ocala? Now, for those listening, I should say because a lot of times we bring around people that are national. Okay,
Yeah.
but we have someone local here in Florida that went to stay
Yes.
Mary Beth. So I just want for our listeners maybe to understand. They keep saying Ocala, Ocala what? Okay, but if you watch the show enough, and see that's a test because you watch the show enough, I live in Ocala, Florida, so
Right.
it's you should know right away when we say Ocala. But
Yes.
what here in Ocala and Marion County and stuff, what do you see more of? Is it veterans? Um, domestic violence survivors, seniors, families. What kind of support are you seem to be giving more of these days?
Well, I hear a lot, and owners call me, and it's very emotional for them. And so they're usually quite open about their current situation. I don't think I've had any domestic violence. I've had some veterans that say, I am not well. My wife is not well. We're on fixed incomes, and we're struggling to feed our pet that we adore, or we have a pet that needs dental care, which is grossly expensive, and we
Hmm.
can't afford it. Then I have a lot of single moms that are trying to raise families, but this pet is a part of that family. And they're struggling to feed their children and work. You know, and then we have the homeless population. Sadly, there is quite a homeless population here in Ocala. And so many of them are struggling to survive for themselves, but this animal provides such comfort to them that they can't bear to not have it, but yet they can't afford to take care of it. And that we see quite a bit.
We see that a lot here in Ocala, where you pull up to a corner at a stoplight and there's somebody with a sign, and yet they have their pet next to them as well. And
Yes.
that's so sad because that's not the kind of life that pet should be living. But you also
No.
want to make sure that pet has food and some kind of shelter on top of that too. It's amazing. We take care of people, or we try to take care of people, but the pets are sort of left aside from that. And that's where great organizations, I should say, like yours comes into play, which I think is fantastic. Now, I want to try to go slightly towards the mental health side a little bit. From your experience, how does keeping pets and their owners together during these tough times impact their both mental and emotional well-being?
Well, there have been studies that a purring cat can actually lower someone's blood pressure.
Hmm.
And I truly believe that because I know when I'd be upset with mom, Chuck would come and sit in my lap, and then all of a sudden you kind of just feel a little bit better. Um, Dogs provide incredible companionship. They are happy to see you when you get home. You might be living with somebody who's not happy to see you when you get home, but that dog will be happy to see you when you get home. And
Hmm.
certainly, children, they protect their children, they protect their people. They have amazing qualities, and sometimes there are people that just don't realize how much feeling those pets have for their owners. They just don't realize.
I can tell you, with someone with a lung disease, I can tell you within days that I'm just not feeling well, which
Hmm.
luckily, knock on wood, are far in between. But there are days I just don't have that spunk, that get up and go spunk. And my dogs, especially one of them, Taz, will come and lay down right next to me. Just lean
Yes.
up against me, you put his head on my pillow and stuff, and just stay there all day.
Yes, because
I've
he
been
knows.
watching. Yeah, they have a very acute sense of what's going on. Plus, they're really, I think, pets are very in tune with you mentally.
Yes, they are. They
Yeah.
definitely are. They sense your emotions, they sense your stress, they sense your joy. So many things that just makes them an incredible part of our lives.
Now, it must be incredible working with people. It, I don't want to say working with people in crisis, that's not incredible, but seeing the kindness and compassion, helping them rebuild their lives and having their pets taken care of. Like you mentioned a couple of scenarios earlier where they can't afford to feed their pet, but they want to keep their pet. You have to see um, that sense of happiness and power rebuild inside those people when you're
Yes,
helping them.
it's incredible. I very often don't meet any of these folks. It's mostly over the phone. My phone rings and is on 24/7. They can call me anytime. But the sense of relief when they call me and they are panic stricken because they're at the veterinarian and the bill is going to be way more than they expected, and they're crying and they're upset, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and I can't bear to put them down. And then I tell them, but you don't have to. This is what we're here for. We will help you. And if we can't help you enough, we will bring our partners in to help you. And the relief and the joy, and even sometimes when the animals are terminal and the only option is humane euthanasia, that is sad. It's heartbreaking for everybody. But I will get a text after saying, thank you so much for not making my friend suffer anymore and helping me because I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to you about when we lost one of the Shelties when we
Right.
came up here, and when we went there, and they ran a whole bunch of tests, and they came back and said, well, she had bone cancer. We could take her to Gainesville, I think it was, and do a whole bunch of serious blood work and stuff. but that was
Yeah.
going to cost like $3,600.
It's crazy.
And when, my wife and I just looked at each other like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
But luckily I had a really good doctor and she said, listen, you're wasting your money.
Right. Right.
Okay. Really,
Yeah.
it, they're going to come back and tell you she has bone cancer.
Right. And it's a
So,
quality of life issue, just like
mhm,
people. They deserve a quality of life. And
right.
my position on euthanasia has always been they give you their entire life, how long it is, whether it's short or long, they give you everything. And that is the gift that we are required as people who can make decisions to give them at the end of their life. And that is a gift that we have to give them.
And you got to be there too. I see so many
Yes.
people, I can't stay in there. No, you
Oh,
stay in there.
no. Yes,
Yeah,
you stay in there.
I've gone through it 3 times in my lifetime, and not one is easier than the other one. But you
Right.
know what? They gave you, like you say, so much. Be there with them for their last moments. Because
Absolutely.
they're going to look at you and they're going to be calm at least the last moments because they know you're there with them and they pass a lot easier. So,
Yes.
what has this work taught you personally about resilience and empathy?
Well, it's taught me a lot. It's taught me that, animals are just wonderful creatures and they give so much of their life for us. And I have compassion for their people in so many different scenarios, but I have to say, honestly, sometimes it's hard to be compassionate because I get these phone calls from people that say, oh, well, she's been sick for a week. Okay. And so we didn't get her in sooner, and now she's terminal versus if a week ago it could have been
Right, there
more
may have been a chance,
affordable.
right?
Life could
Hmm.
have been that is very frustrating. One of the other very frustrating, and I've had two episodes of this, are folks that purchase a puppy from somebody who has no business breeding them. They don't give them any medical care, and then they don't take them to the vet. They take them to the park, they take them to the mall, and the puppy gets parvo. And
Right.
parvo is deadly and horrible. And I've had to render that thought that I'm sorry, but you are telling me you're not capable of administering the constant care for the next 2 weeks. And I
Hmm.
don't have the money because we're new and young to spend thousands of dollars to try to save your puppy. And so then it becomes heartbreaking. I suffer for like 2 days when that scenario occurs because it was so preventable. So it has increased my empathy, but it has also, I've had to take a lot of deep breaths sometimes because I, people just don't get it sometimes. They just don't.
Like we said, there's a lot of people I don't think should own pets.
Yes, I
It's just
agree.
it's a responsibility. It's like a child. Not
Yes,
everyone is meant to have a child. And
right.
I'm sorry, a pet is your child.
Yes.
So, what challenges is Chuck's Piggy Bank facing as far as partnerships, awareness, funding, for that matter?
Well, as far as partnerships go, we have wonderful partnerships. So that really
Hmm.
isn't a challenge. We most recently met a very generous donor who is very interested in what we're doing, and he's showing his support in the most profound way by helping us with funding. So that is the best. We have wonderful animal rescue partners that I can call. I got a call one night at 9 o'clock from a gentleman in Georgia. Here we are in Florida. Said, my best friend found a kitten. It's only 2 days old. A lawnmower almost ran it over. It looked like a piece of paper on the ground. And he's got this kitten. He doesn't really know what to do. Can you help? Well, I called my rescue partner, and I know she's wonderful with neonatal kittens. And she took that little boy in and put him in the incubator and bottle fed him, and he is thriving. He is
Wow.
beautiful. And now this gentleman from Georgia is going to adopt him. So he will
Cool.
have his home. So the partnerships are there. Funding is always a challenge, and it's because the more well-known we are, the more people that are calling for service. The times are such that pet food has gone up drastically in the last few years.
Mhm.
Veterinary costs are skyrocketing. Here in Ocala, we have limited emergency veterinary care, and it's very expensive. So,
Yes.
you know, the need is abounding. In the months of July and August, those 2 months, we spent $10,000 in medical care for other people's pets. And those weren't rescues, those were individuals that needed help. So funding is an incredible challenge. But like I say, we have this wonderful new donor, and he has assured me that he's going to help us, and he already has. And I am blessed to have him. We would love to have more, of course, and every donation helps somebody. So,
Well, that's why my next question was going to be, how could like local communities, shelters, even churches, and volunteers, individuals help with this mission? Is there a way that they can be part of it?
sure. A lot of businesses, a lot of community groups, a lot of clubs like to do fundraisers. We've had some of that happen for us and received over $1,000 at times.
Hmm.
Nothing is more wonderful than having somebody say, I'd like to host a fundraiser for you. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to send you a check. So we do our own fundraising also constantly, but that's the best way. As far as volunteers go, we don't have animals, so we don't need the number of volunteers, but we are still doing bake sales. And it's amazing how many people in Florida don't want to bake anymore. They say, oh, I did that when I was up north. But I still bake every day, especially when I know we have a bake sale fundraiser coming up. And we do about 4 of them a year. So if somebody wanted to do baked goods for us, that would be lovely. Just support us. Come out to our events. We're doing Pet Palooza this weekend at the World Equestrian Center. Come out and say hello. Drop a donation. We'll have homemade brownies and cookies. We're happy to give you one in exchange.
And even too, I mean, if an individual wanted to get, see, now you got my head going, okay? And that's the
Yeah.
scary thing because I was a business consultant for years too. You could even, if you wanted to, you're holding your garage sales and
Yes.
you're selling a bunch of stuff, you could donate the money that you make off the garage sale.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
simple as that, that you don't have to go crazy out of your way. But if you had a bunch of stuff you were going to get rid of, sell it at a garage sale, collect all the money, and contact you, and they can take care of that. Now, I
Yes.
want to ask you a couple of quick questions before we run out of time on that. So I'm watching the clock. I could talk to you for hours here, and we do 2 shows on this, but I will have
Likewise.
you back on in the future. I want you to know
Good.
that.
Good.
Okay. Have you ever seen the ripple effect take place where you help somebody and then they turned around and helped others that's in the same situation when they got on their feet?
Well, I haven't seen a lot of that as of yet because we're fairly new. But I have had people refer their friends to us that are struggling. Um, they helped me, and perhaps they could help you also. We did a free spay and neuter event recently in partnership with Marion County Animal Services, and people were passing the word on to their friends that they knew had animals that needed spay and neuter and vaccines. So and we've had people say when they were down and out financially and needed help, I've had them say to me many times, when I get on my feet, I'm going to make sure I give you a donation. I did have one lady in particular that she had a family member who not only helped her in partnership with us to take care of her dog, but he was a veteran. He knew that we helped veterans, and he turned around and made a very nice donation in
Very
memory
nice.
of a family member. So yes, there has been some. I expect there will be more as time goes on. And honestly, just the blessings of the people that do donate to us, especially this most recent donor, that comes from above. I mean, those are blessings that can only be bestowed, and it gives me confidence to know that we're doing the right thing.
It's an incredible mission. As I said, when I was told about your organization, I was like, "Is they're like you think that?" I was like, "Do you have questions or whether or not I think this would work for our show?" 100%. If you could expand your mission, what would it be?
Well, there's actually one thing in the works right now. I have a short term and I have a long term. The short term, by the grace of this gift from our most recent donor, we are going to start producing educational videos on things that like parvo, like FIP in cats, like when is your pet need a well visit, an urgent visit, or an emergency visit. All the things that have troubled us in the last year and a half that we see when the puppy's dying of parvo and the owner says to me, I didn't know. I didn't know. We want them to know. So we are going to produce a series from 7 to 10 videos. I already have my videographer. He's wonderful. He did our story video on our website. He's been contracted to produce these videos. We have 7 to 9 topics right now. And we're going to be starting production probably in the next month or so. The goal then, once we produce them, is to have them be free for anybody that wants to show them in their veterinary office waiting room. We are going to take them into the schools so that the parents can be educated by the children when they come home to talk about what they learned today. We're going to produce a coloring book, so it's a lasting message for those children. We're going to go into community centers at 55 plus communities. We're going to hope to go to veterans meetings and go to, we've partnered with Interfaith and Saving Mercy, which are 2 housing communities for folks living on the edge. And we're going to start educating them on the necessity of spay and neuter and what happens. And don't buy your puppy for $50 without a health certificate and all those topics. And each video will be concise and short so we don't lose attention span. And they're also going to have a little bit of an entertainment value to hold attention. And I can't wait. I'm very excited to try to put the end to some of the misery that we see that could be so preventable. So that's the short-term goal. And if I may go into the long-term goal.
Yeah, definitely.
I have seen a definite gap in emergency health care here in our community for pets. There is only one overnight clinic that I am aware of. It's very costly to walk in the door. Many of the things that are needed cannot be done here locally. You're taking a drive to Gainesville. My long-term goal would be to open up a clinic that would open at like 5 p.m. in the afternoon so that the working folks could make a spay-neuter appointment, get vaccines for their pet while they're trying to earn a living during the day, and then have overnight care, have emergency care where blood transfusions, stitches, surgeries could be done in a setting that is low cost and affordable to people. And I'm going to start trying very slowly because I have a lot of irons in the fire, but that is a goal that I hope to see in the not too distant future.
And I'll talk to you afterwards. You're talking in my head, the back of my head is going like 1,000 miles a minute. And I'm trying to stay focused on what you're telling me, but I have all these different thoughts that are going through my head. So, what message would you share with our listeners about kindness, mental health, and the importance of helping both people and their pets?
We need to be kind. At this time in the world, in our country, kindness is so critical because there are so many people suffering from mental illness, from past
Mhm.
experiences, from being unhoused, underfed, trying to support their families and their children, and it's hard. It's hard. Even for those of us that worked our whole life, have reasonable pensions, it's hard. Everything is expensive. So if you see somebody struggling, offer them some assistance. Can I help you? Can I get you a bag of dog food? Can I get you a bag of cat food? The veterinarians here in town all have my number. And the minute someone comes in and they're upset and they're crying because they can't afford the bill, they tell them to call Chuck's Piggy Bank, which is a blessing. It really is. But, we have to keep our bank account full because the
Right.
need is incredible. So give somebody a hug. If you see somebody with a dog and they're asking for money, and if you're not comfortable giving money, go to the store and buy a bag of dog food, a small bag that they can carry with them, or and a drink for the person that's sitting out there asking. I know there's so many scammers and we become jaded and we get told don't give them anything. But a bag of dog food is never going to hurt. That dog needs to eat, regardless of what the situation is of the person they're with, because they love them.
Yeah, and and like you say, a lot of times people start to think, well, they bring that dog out there just to get money.
Yes,
But we're in Florida. To everybody else that's listening here, okay, thankfully the weather's cooling off a little bit. But during the day, those dogs are sitting out there 95, 100 degrees with a fur
yes,
coat on,
yes,
and just sitting there. And got to, if there's no way of getting those people off the street with the pets, we still have to think about those poor pets on top of that.
yes.
Now, tell us, I'm going to close up. Tell us about the website and how people can get in touch with
Well, my phone number is everywhere, but we have a we have a very active Facebook page. If you want to see what we're doing, please like and follow Chuck's Piggy Bank Incorporated. I post at least once a day. I talk about our events and our upcoming things. I post stories of some of the people we have helped, where your donations are being used. We're in the process of creating a newsletter that we hope with people sharing their email will be emailed to them maybe once every quarter that catches you up on some of the things that we're involved in. Our website is a beautiful website. It was produced by a gentleman here in Ocala, and it tells Chuck's story. And I still can't watch it without a tear because it is very moving. He did a wonderful job, and it's an easy website to navigate. You can donate on
you. Yes.
there. We have a calendar of events that tell you where we're going to be and what we're doing. And we've had some wonderful fundraisers. We had a wonderful auction in conjunction with the veterans here in Ocala about a month ago. It was wildly successful. It's going to be bigger and better next year. And we participate in Give for Marion, which is also a huge fundraiser here in Marion County. We were very successful, and that's how we met and benefited from our most recent wonderful donor who has just been a gift to us, really.
Remember, folks, you don't have to be living here in Ocala to be
No,
able to help. Okay, you could just go through the website and donate. You
yes,
know, the mission is an amazing. Let's put it this way: I had a few people that came to me that wanted, that was wanted to be part of this segment, and there was okay. But when this was explained to me by a mutual friend and said what it was, there was no question which one I was going
thank
to
you.
do. Okay, next,
Thank
because
you.
it to me it touches my heart personally too. You know, I haven't been to the point where I couldn't afford to pay it, but
Hmm.
I've been there, like you say, with that emergency place, which there's only one, but I still won't call it by name,
Right.
where you're sitting there and you're in an emergency situation. You're bringing your pet there because it's after hours, and there's no
Right.
place else to go. And
Right.
when you're walking in the door, now you're getting hit with two, three, $400 minimum as you're going through this. I mean, I know my wife and I would took a real deep breath,
Yes,
when we heard the thing, but I understand that there are people that just can't afford that.
that's right.
And I remember when we were there, a woman coming out of the place crying, and she had just brought the pet in. So I don't think she had put him to sleep or the animal to sleep. I think it was that she just couldn't afford it and left
Yes.
because one had just left the pet there and just said, do what you need to do with him.
Yes.
And that broke my heart,
Yes.
even more that people are in that situation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody, thank you for joining us today and sharing the heart and mission of Chuck's Piggy Bank. Your compassion for both people and their pets reminds us that kindness comes in many forms, and love doesn't stop just at species. The work you do not only keeps families together, but also heals hearts, offers hope and comfort to those who need it the most. Now, to all of our viewers, if you'd like to learn more or get involved, visit chuckspiggybank.com. The link will be in the video description that's talked about. Even the Facebook page link will be in the video description. So whether it's through a donation or simply just spreading the word, every bit of support helps this incredible organization continue to change lives. And remember, I just, off the top of my head, gave you one or two to the people here, to you, but just one or two ideas that you could just, they're not going to turn away $100. A hundred
Right.
dollars can buy food for a couple of pets,
Yes.
at that really need food at that time. So, Mary Beth Bell, thank you for once again joining us and enlightening our listeners. And everybody, remember, kindness is powerful, hope is contagious, and above all, remember, your life matters.
Tonight we have a second interview for you, and this is one I'm sure you're going to appreciate also. See, there are many organizations out there that are doing some pretty amazing things for people, whether they are elderly, in tough financial situations, or even for sick children. So I kept this one for last. Um, you know, Many of you probably know our next guest, as he has appeared many times on the Your Life Matters Show podcast, especially the series we did on the Mothman. I'm talking about my good friend, R. Travis Short. See, I met Travis through two mutual friends, the late great Kev Baker and my good close friend, spiritual warrior himself, Reverend Bill Bean. See, Travis was a regular guest on Bill Bean's show, and he was also part of Warrior Mode with Kev and Bill every week. Now, we could go way back in Travis's past when he was a pastor, but we're going to stay fairly current. See, right now he's the Chief Marketing Officer of Vector Group. He's Marketing Director at TRS Management and Old Town Grill Restaurants. For about 3 years was General Manager at Force Broadcasting, and he's the founder of Phoenix Publicity Promotions and Public Relations. And I can go on and on and on, okay? But tonight we're going to zoom in on another title I didn't even mention yet. He's the executive director of David's Legacy in Kentucky. But see, I'm going to let him tell you about the organization. So, to all the listeners of the Your Life Matters show, especially the older listeners, please let me reintroduce to you a good man. He's a hard worker, smart and talented. He's a man of God, Travis Short. Travis, thank you once again for joining us on the Your Life Matters show podcast.
It is my pleasure. It's good to see you again. It's been, I guess, a couple of years since
It's
I've
been
been
a
on.
couple of
It
years.
has,
Yes,
yes.
believe it or not, one of the most popular episodes that we had of the original show was your episodes of the Mothman.
I'm glad to hear that. Angela and I just came back from the Mothman Festival about 2 weeks ago. Hadn't been to the festival. Well, we went last year, so that was my first year at the festival since 2009, and it has
Mhm.
exploded. I mean, it used to be just a couple of tents on side streets, and Main Street is now shut down. It's elbow to elbow people from the River Museum all the way back up to the original location where the Silver Bridge connected to Point Pleasant. It's just huge. It is. It was great. I saw Jeff Wamsley again. Talked to him. He said they were anticipating 20 to 30,000 people this year. So I mean, that's it. It was great to get up there and see some folks. And my cousin Matthew and his wife,
Mhm.
he had been my producer on the Mothman documentary, and they met us up there. So we got a chance to spend the day with them, share some Mothman pizza, and have a good time.
We almost got, if you remember, we almost got him on the show.
Yes.
That
Yep.
was going to be our last episode of it,
Yes, it was.
too, was with him. Yes, I remember Matthew very well. Now, before we jump into David's legacy,
Yes.
okay, we were talking a little before about, before we went on the air here, about your latest thing with the Chicken Festival.
Oh yeah. So my 9 to 5 job, which actually ends up being a lot more than 9 to 5 sometimes. I'm the director of public relations and events for London Laurel County Tourist Commission in southeastern Kentucky, and one of the largest festivals that Kentucky has is the World Chicken Festival, which would turn 35 this year. They started in 1990 on what would have been Colonel Sanders' 100th birthday, and it's just to pay honor to the very rich chicken history that Laurel County has, because the original KFC restaurant, the very first, was open to the city of Corbin, but Corbin sits in Laurel County. And so that is where the original KFC is still open. They just remodeled it. They put a museum in. It's a great place. I actually took my son there last year, and we had some consultants in town this past week. So I ended up taking them down to have lunch with them there. And but what a lot of people don't know is that Colonel Sanders' nephew, Lee Cummings, who worked with him at the original KFC and helped with some of the franchises, went on to start Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, which is a whole other franchise
Yes.
of fried chicken. So it's a fun time of 4 days of, as I said, all week long, feathers, food, fried chicken, family, friends, all kinds of stuff. It's an entirely free event, all 4 days. The only thing you pay for are your parking, what souvenirs you buy, carnival rides that you want to ride, and whatever meals that you want. And trust me, there are tons of those. We have the world's largest stainless steel skillet. It's about 10 feet in diameter, 8 inches deep, comes in 4 parts, and holds 300 gallons of cooking oil. It runs on 60 gallons of natural gas over the course of those 4 days. It takes an entire day to assemble and an entire day to disassemble. So it's a really kind of fun thing. There we had 175 vendors this year, 66 of those from Laurel County, where I am, 70 from the neighboring counties, and then about 39 other vendors from 15 states as far west as Montana, Wyoming, and as far south as the very tip of Florida. So we had an amazing time. Don't have my numbers yet on how many people. Like I said, it's free, so it's non-ticketed. I use a digital company called Arrivalist, and they geofence the area for us so we can know, at least get an idea of how many people were there on their cell phones, tablets, anything like that. But it's also 2 stages of free entertainment. We have the Stage of Stars, which books more national acts, and then I oversee the Sanders stage, and that's regional acts. So this year we had a total of 27 different concerts going on throughout those 4 days, as well as
Wow.
contests. And again, the food vendors and everything else. It's a great time. So I encourage everybody, if you're interested in finding out more, go to chickenfestival.com. You'll see everything that goes on. I'll be updating the website this week with some photos and everything from this past year.
In fact, I might talk to my wife, Jen, maybe next year, take a drive up there.
I would love to have you guys come in.
Yeah, so we'll time it around that. She's now a nurse. She graduated and stuff.
Yep,
Yeah.
I've seen that on Facebook. And
So
give her my congratulations.
yeah, she starts work on Monday too.
Excellent.
So
Good
yeah,
for her.
so that should be nice. So okay, so as I said in the introduction, tonight we're going to talk about David's legacy that's
Yeah.
here. And so can you share the story of how David's legacy began, what the organization is all about, how it began? And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it was like the first teddy bear donation. Was it like
It,
2013?
it was. So when I moved to Laurel County here in Southeast Kentucky, my first time, I've moved here twice. When I was here in 2019, mutual friend of mine. Her name is Brandy, and she lived in Richmond, Kentucky, which is about an hour, not quite an hour, about 45-minute drive north. And she invited me out with a bunch of friends my first night here. So I knew absolutely nobody except the people I was going to be working with when I managed the radio stations. But I met a lady by the name of Tanya Charlton, and we became friends. And over the course of several years, she began to open up to me, and she told me about David. David was her stillborn son. And she, every year on the anniversary of his birth slash death, she would go to his grave and she would leave a single stuffed animal on his tombstone. And she did that for 16 years. And then when she went back on the 16th anniversary, she realized at that point in time that he would have been learning how to drive, he would be getting ready to go to prom, he would be graduating, and she just didn't feel right about leaving a stuffed animal. So her cousin advised her to just take the toy and leave it at the University of Kentucky's Children's Hospital. So she did. And every year after that, she would continue to do so. And then over the course of the years, what happened was she started buying. She would go around after Christmas and buy items on sale. She would wait throughout the year and go and she would buy up and buy up and buy up. And then on the anniversary, which is September 28th, she would always take that donation to the UK Children's Hospital. So in 2021, 22, I talked to her and I convinced her to make it a nonprofit. There's a lot of parents out there who have lost a child either at birth or through tragedy, and they don't really know how to get through that, and they need something cathartic. And I thought this would be a good way for her to actually help herself and also help some other individuals. So we formed David's Legacy. It's an LLC nonprofit here in Kentucky. And so over the past 2 years, I've been handling the publicity and getting interviews. We launched it September of 2022. I was not able to attend that event because, as you know, I was in Tennessee getting my master's degree at East Tennessee State University. So I wasn't
Yeah, the
able to
last time we talked, you were in school, like over
Yes.
Saturday night.
Yep. So wasn't able to make that one, but we formed the nonprofit. And we just did the delivery this year. And we did a delivery of enough toys, blankets, games, and things like that to provide for 438 children at the UK Children's Hospital. And at
Wow.
any given time, there are several hundred children that are there. And then so in the course of doing that and helping her, we also became involved with a gentleman that I'm going to recommend you get in touch with and talk to him. His name is Gary Conley, and he's here in London, Kentucky. He has a company called Minuteman Press. They print everything, business cards, posters, yard signs, you name it. And he actually just won a national award a couple of months ago for the work that they do there at Minuteman Press and all the clients they have. He does a work with a lot of nonprofits. And so back in 2022, before I even went to ETSU to start my graduate program, there was a horrible flooding that took place in eastern Kentucky. And it came down on I want to say July 22nd or 23rd of that year, and it just devastated so many counties and so many towns. Thousands and thousands of people left homeless, thousands of people or thousands of businesses shut down. So Tanya, at that time, Tanya's other board member for David's Legacy, Laura Lenore, she had ties to a little town called Fleming Neon, Kentucky. And I'm very familiar with Fleming Neon. I've been there many times over the years. My dad used to work in the coal mines in eastern Kentucky. And as you know, I was the manager of a huge radio station there in eastern Kentucky. So all of that area was my territory. I've been there numerous times. And we were actually one of the first nonprofits to show up. Now, we didn't show up to do anything except have boots on the ground, people digging mud, sweeping mud, boxing supplies that were coming in. And we did that for several times. My good friend Gary Conley here, he also heard about it. He decided he wanted to get involved. So he started bringing people up. So he ended up forming another nonprofit called Appalachia Strong, and they go around to areas devastated by natural disasters. And so David's Legacy has partnered with Appalachia Strong to kind of broaden what we do, because a lot of times people don't really think about the kids in situations when there's a natural
Right.
disaster. But they've lost not only their homes, they've lost pets, they've lost toys, they've lost books, they've lost all of these items that need to be replaced. So what we have been doing is going with Gary when he finds a location. We've done Fleming Neon numerous times. We were in Irwin, Tennessee, Breathitt County, Kentucky. We were in North Carolina right after Hurricane Helene. And then, of course, London itself was the point of a disaster on May 16th of this year. We had an EF4 tornado that ripped through Laurel County. It leveled our airport. It leveled one of our parks. It leveled the fairgrounds. It destroyed an entire subdivision of homes. Several people lost their lives. Many pets were taken away. It was a tragedy what happened here. So we turned our sights inside and started doing some stuff here. And what was amazing was how many of the little towns that we had helped in their time of need, they started coming to London and helping us as we tried to recover. So David's Legacy has a two-pronged approach. We focus primarily on children in a children's hospital. So right now we're at the University of Kentucky. That's our primary location. We plan on adding the University of Louisville in Kentucky, and we've already in talks with University there in Cincinnati about their children's hospital. So we've got UK pretty much mapped out. We know when we're delivering there. And so we're working with University of Louisville and the Cincinnati Children's Hospital to add those two. And we actually will do one more drop off to UK. We do that right before Christmas. We'll do another toy drive, and we will end up taking more things there. And then the secondary approach is working with Gary Conley and Appalachia Strong, going into the areas where families have lost everything and trying to help clean up. We've gone, you know how much I love to cook, so I always go and I'm fixing breakfast and lunch, working on the grill. Angela shows up and she's a well-oiled machine as far as putting things in perspective and getting people to do what they need to do. And she's been a godsend. She was a great help through the Chicken Festival this year. And so that's kind of the two-pronged approach that we have. We've got a great event coordinator with David's Legacy. His name is Charles Gantis. And it always surprises people, but one of the most beneficial and strongest partnerships we have are with some biker clubs. Bikers love kids and anything that has to do with kids, helping women. And so we've done poker runs, we've done polar runs, we've had a couple of car runs, working on a golf scramble for next year to just try to break it up a little bit and do something different. But we raise, a couple of $1,000 at each of those events that go entirely to David's Legacy. None of the board members take a salary or anything like that. Everything goes right back in to the nonprofit so that we can continue helping the children and the families that are in need. And it's been a really, really positive thing, not just for those people, but for the individuals who volunteer with it and have become involved with it. And last year, Tanya, Charles, and the other folks decided they want to make me the executive director. So I stepped into that role. So a little bit more responsibility now. I do interviews. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, this coming Monday, I'm sorry, a week ago, this coming Monday, I was up for 4 straight days during that chicken festival. I lost an entire block of time. We were in Lexington doing TV interviews there. WTVQ, ABC 36, they did a segment with us. We were picked up by a national syndicated show in 2022. It ran all over the Southeast. We got a lot of impact from that interview. And the interview that I did on Monday, actually, we received a lot of feedback. Tanya was getting requests. People wanted to buy shirts. They wanted to know how they could make donations and things like that. So it's been a really, really positive thing that we've been able to do, not just for, like I said, not just for the families, but also for ourselves. It gives us a good feeling at night when we go to bed.
There were 2 things you said during that. One was about bikers. That sticks to my head. When I was in Decatur County in Indiana, they tapped me to run their Santa's cause.
Yes.
And that was I believe it was it A-Gate, I guess, is for the bikers organizations?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. And it was the A-Gate of Decatur County. And they want, again, I was absolutely amazed, these big burly bikers coming in and, looking at children's toys and absolutely going berserk and making sure that anything we needed, they were there for.
Yep.
It was absolutely incredible. And secondly, this is mental health show, and what you said there is so true. Children and tragedies that are taking place, natural disasters, and I call those tragedies. People forget that those children lost everything.
Yes.
A child's most important thing is that sense of security,
Yes.
that they have their home. If anything else, they have their home, their family around them, as you say, their pets, their toys. And when they lose all of that, we start to look at, the adults, we have to find them a place to live but we forget about what the children are going through.
Yes.
Until probably in like the 5 steps, that's probably number 5. Is okay, let's look at the mental health of a child.
Mhm.
And something as simple as a teddy bear or a
Yes.
toy to a child. I've seen children just hold that teddy bear. They got nothing else, but now they have one thing that's theirs. And they hold on to that. And that helps them. If Dr. Davis was here, he would explain to you the importance of that. I mean, it's really so much on the mark. When you show up after a flood, tornado, all these things that take place there, what are people's reactions to the help that you're bringing them?
It's been very well received. We don't go in immediately. You want to give the first
Right,
responders time
first
to do.
response, right.
And that was one of the things we dealt with here in London. We were here, all of us from and we wanted to do something, but the first responders weren't ready for us to even start coming out and fixing lunches or breakfast for individuals. So, you kind of have to pump your brakes a little bit and come up with a game plan. It's been very well received. I wish that I had gotten the numbers from Gary Connolly because he, of course, his organization provides the food that we fix for breakfast and lunch. But I mean, the number of meals that we've prepared just in the past 2 years is up into the thousands that we do. Because, like I said, we do breakfast, and it's a very simple breakfast. There's pancakes, there's eggs, there's bacon, there's sausage, and there's gravy and biscuits, and then there's orange juice and coffee. Lunch is like a typical barbecue: hamburgers, hot dogs, stuff that's very fast, easy to come in, and easy to get. And we feed people there and we let people come in, make box lunches and go, especially the first responders. They're out there getting things cleaned up. They're helping people. They get their lunches. We take care of them. But it's been very well received, every location that we've been to. And like I said, when we had the tornado here in Laurel County, it was interesting to see a lot of those areas that say, you've been here to help us. We're now here to help you. And an interesting side note about the tornado and a random act of kindness that came out of that. One of the things that Laurel County hosts that I have a distinct honor in being part of and kind of being the event planner is called the ASA 3D Archery Tournament. Last year, it brought 7,000 plus people, 44 states, 7 countries were here to compete over the course of the last weekend in May. And obviously, they didn't get to do that this year because we hosted that event at the fairgrounds. And that, as I said, the fairgrounds was totally devastated. There wasn't a single, I take that back. There was still one thing standing on the property, and that was the tornado shelter. That was actually a picnic shelter, but nothing moved. Nothing had happened. If I ever build a house, I want the person who built that storm shelter to build for me. So we the archery tournament didn't happen, and instead of canceling, the 3D archery tournament organizers, the ASA, decided that the different chapters in Kentucky and some of the other states were going to go ahead and have an event, and every money that was raised, every penny of the money that was raised was coming back to Laurel County. So they hosted these events, and we were able to raise, I think they raised 58,000 some dollars, and then one of the organizations here in Laurel County, Martin's Peterbilt, they matched that donation. So we ended up coming up about $108,000 that went right back into the community here.
Let me ask you, and I'm going to hit you from a different perspective here.
I would expect nothing less.
Exactly. Well, you know me, okay? How do you think receiving support in times of crisis impacts the people's mental health and emotional resilience?
Ask me
Because
that
you've seen it firsthand.
right.
That's why I'm asking.
I think there's numbness, first of all. There's that not realize. I mean, because we were asleep in our townhouse the night the tornado hit. I didn't hear anything. Now, Angela did. She said she heard it come through. And actually, it was our townhouse subdivision was on the path originally. It was coming right at us. And then it jumped and then it hit a subdivision about 1,500, 2,000 feet behind us. So we got up that morning and we were on our way to Breathitt County to work on uh, the flooding relief up there. And I decided, because this was, like I said, 2 weeks before one of the largest events that we have. So I got out, wanted to drive around and see what kind of devastation had been done. Our subdivision, absolutely nothing. A couple of branches, nothing at all. And then the further I got out of town, Main Street, the downtown area was not touched at all. But the further I got on the outskirts of the county, the airport totally destroyed. Levi Jackson Park totally destroyed. The fairgrounds ripped apart, nothing there. Churches that were on either side of that fairground, they lost roofs, they lost everything. Like I said, there was a car sitting at the entrance of the fairground, and there was a tree going through the windshield, and it was just parked there. I'm assuming that the driver was able to get out and get away, but it was just sitting there with the tree right through the front windshield and through the back windshield. So I think there's that numbness, survivor's guilt is another thing that I think goes on. It was a really long time after that event before a lot of us were willing to say, oh, we're going to go to a movie, or we're going to go play golf, or we're going to do this, because there was so much devastation that was going on. And then you started hearing about, I personally know two of the people that were killed in the tornado. And one of them was just an acquaintance through some mutual friends that Angela and I have, but she was asleep in bed and a tree was thrown right through her wall and it hit her in bed and killed her. So feeling those, finding those things out after the fact, realizing how fortunate that you actually were, it kind of adds back to that survivor's guilt. And then there's that resilience. Okay, we're going to get back. We're going to do exactly what we've always done. We're going to give people, and that was one of the reasons we continued with the Chicken Festival in London, was because we want to give people something positive to look forward to. We had Hurricane Helene last year. We had the I-75 shooter that was technically in Laurel County back in the week before the Chicken Festival last year. Just so much negativity. We wanted to give people something fun, something positive that they could look forward to. And I think as you know, at one point in my life, I was a chaplain for the sheriff's department and for a hospital. And one of the things that I think people often forget about are those first responders. How are they dealing with and processing what they're doing in these moments, and the families and the friends, finding, dead animals, finding dead people. And that was one of the reasons that we were told early on, we don't want you coming, David's Legacy or Appalachia Strong, to do anything in London right now, because we're still afraid we're going to be finding bodies under some of these houses. We don't know. So it was and has been a very trying time, and kind of coming full circle. You're talking about Mothman. That was one of the things that attracted us to that story, was the resilience that the people of Point Pleasant had after the collapse of the Silver Bridge, and just the way that they bounced back, the way that they continued, adapting their lives, and dealing with not only the loss of the bridge and the loss of lives, but the main connection to Ohio and to the other parts of West Virginia. And they were kind of isolated for over 10 years. It took them 10 years to rebuild a bridge from the Ohio side to the West Virginia side. And so the resilience of mankind, I think, is something that I'm always fascinated by. You find people that they keep having things thrown their way and things thrown onto them, and they find a way to continue. They find a way to make it work. And I think that is, at the essence, random acts of kindness. I think that it's those little things that we do sometimes that end up meaning more than anything else. It's not always giving money. It's not always, being a first responder, but it's just helping. If you need a place to stay, come stay with us. If you need a place to stay, we'll give you a hotel room. If you need a place to stay, we'll do this. Just being able to help them in any way possible.
Okay. Well, it's funny, in your last response here, you mentioned, the first responders and, how it can even affect them. We just recently, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, did a show on 9/11. I don't know. It was one of the past episodes. We actually did a two-part series on that. And one of the things was I worked for a chiropractor who was in Connecticut, had gone in and was volunteering down at, at Ground Zero. And he
Mhm.
actually was just giving chiropractic adjustments to all the first responders that were down there. And he talked about how burnt out these people were.
Yes.
They didn't want to go home. They didn't care if they were getting paid or not. They just kept going. And there's always that fear, even with the show we did a couple of weeks ago on IPF, the lung disease and stuff,
Mm.
that, caretakers fall
Yes.
into that same category of they burn themselves out. So how does your team, of people, the crew around you, cope with, compassion fatigue is what they're calling it,
Yeah.
when they're constantly exposed to communities in crisis? Sounds like Laurel County's had their share in the past year or two.
It has. And, again, you kind of have to look at it. You have to step back and look at the big picture. Otherwise, you actually do kind of get lost in all of the minutia that's there. I
Mhm.
think, you were talking about the chiropractor just giving adjustments. I know there are been several chiropractors and massage therapists. They've gone out and given free massages to the first
Right.
responders, to help ease the back and the legs and the shoulders and all of those things. And then it does become very, very tedious. That's why we've actually, when it comes to the disaster relief, we're trying to, through David's legacy, and then also with, Gary Conley's team, they will go just about anywhere. We try to make sure that what we're doing is going to be necessary before we go to someplace with the disaster
Right.
relief. We'll go sometimes just as volunteers with Appalachia Strong just to serve food and things like that. And sometimes we'll go. We took several donations to Fleming Neon when the flooding actually hit immediately. And it wasn't just toys, but it was school supplies, because you think this happened in July. Well, school was going to be starting, should have been starting in a couple of weeks. And here these kids didn't know, they not only didn't have a home to study in, they didn't have any of their books, they
The
didn't have any
supplies, right.
paper or pencils or pens or anything like that. So we went and tried to be very strategic in the way that we help. So we do two toy drives a year, one in September, one in December. We do two fundraisers throughout the year. We'll do a poker run in the spring, and then we'll do either a poker run or a polar run. The only difference being sometimes it's cold and snowing, and sometimes it's beautiful like it was this last poker run. And then we will try to do at least two of the natural disasters each year. We'll try to help Appalachia Strong go into two of those throughout the year, because our board, our volunteers, a very small group of people with David's Legacy, and same thing with Appalachia Strong. Now, Gary actually has more volunteers than we do with David's Legacy. And they have rallied behind what we've done. The shirt that I'm wearing, the logo that's on our business cards, the signs that are on Tanya's car, all of those were done by Bennett Man Press. He didn't charge anything for it. That was his way of giving back to us. So it's finding ways that you can, like we've said, help one another, and then in turn be able to do more. And that's why we're hoping, we got a lot of feedback from the last interview. I'm hoping that we'll have some folks this time from this interview that
Mhm.
want to learn more about David's legacy and how they can get involved. Especially, I did a presentation to the London chapter of Rotary, which I'm a member of, back a couple of months ago, about David's legacy. And there were a couple of individuals in that organization that took it upon themselves for the next couple of months. They went out and they bought things for David Legacy's toy drive in September. And then they brought all those to me, and I took those up and we loaded the cars down, and we went to this time it was Angela, myself, and Tanya that we went to the Children's Hospital and delivered all of those supplies. We loaded down the Land Rover, we loaded down Tanya's car, and we just went. My goal, what I'm really trying to do, and I hope to do this in December, if not this year, then I really want to do it next year, is I want one of these biker clubs to actually put on Santa Claus hats. Not on anything, just Santa Claus hats. Because Kentucky, you don't have to wear a helmet. There's
Right.
no law that makes you have one. But they put on Santa Claus hats and then a backpack full of toys and just do a line of motorcycles all the way to the Children's Hospital, pull in there, make the drop, and then everybody drive off. And that's because the kids don't see us. All the
Right.
kids know is that they're getting toys. The kids don't see us. We show up. The nurses come down. We give the toys to them, and then eventually they'll send us pictures of which child got which toy and how it's been able to make their day.
Well, as well as I don't need to tell you from a marketing point of view, that's very visual.
Yes.
And more people see that, and more people want to get involved in that as well. Now, I got one interesting question on that. Have you seen anyone that you've helped during these years turn around and become a volunteer later on when they've got their feet on the ground?
That's actually an interesting question and one I haven't really thought about. So I don't have an immediate response. I'm trying to think. Um,
Because a lot of times in these things, it's very reciprocal.
it is.
Someone
I think
has, yeah.
I think the one story that I can right off the top of my head, and it's not exactly an answer to your question, but I mentioned Charles Yantis. He and his wife Jacqueline and their daughter. They had already been involved. Charles, especially, he was the event coordinator. He's planned all the poker runs, the polo runs, and things like that. He's just got a big heart. Um, about, I guess, a year ago, it was not long after we had done the fall poker run. He found out that his son had died of an overdose. They hadn't heard from him in several days. He was in another state, and then he was found. And that really spurred him on more to become involved with David's legacy, as now being the father of, a father who's now lost a child. But it also was something where the David's legacy was able to help them promote the things that they're doing to raise money for Charles's the son's family, and things like that. So there's a lot of reciprocity there. Unfortunately, and this is what I've been telling a lot of folks, the problem with the flooding in Eastern Kentucky, it's still not. I mean, those areas still haven't been rebuilt. There are still to this day people living in tents because they have lost their homes. Their homes have not been rebuilt. A lot of individuals, and this is one of those things. Again, you don't think about it, but a lot of people just didn't have adequate homeowners insurance to cover what did happen to their home. So they're not getting any money to rebuild. They're not getting anything back. Um, so you see that and the tornado devastation here. I've talked to the United Way. We do a lot of work with them here. I've talked to some of the first responders, and we're looking at 3 to 5 years before this area is going to be what it was before, just getting back to that norm. So I don't think there's been enough time for a lot of people to have that even really, sink in for them, and then to turn around. Now, I have noticed with Gary Conley, there have been a few more volunteers that have showed up to start helping with things because they have gone through some things and because we were
Mhm.
there. And like I said, there's been a lot of those folks from Eastern Kentucky that have said, London's got a problem. We're coming to help you. The ASA 3D archery tournament, they did the same thing during the Chicken Festival. We have a huge RV farm here called The Farm, and there were about 40 RVs that came in a single rally over the course of the Chicken Festival. And we didn't ask, we didn't do anything. They had heard about the tornado, and so that weekend they just among themselves raised almost $1,500 that they then turned around and gave back to Laurel County. They went straight to the United Way, and their national president of their organization showed up to surprise them at their event, and he's going to be sending money from that national organization to Laurel County. So it's always interesting to see how those things come around, and you do see people wanting to make a difference. There are people that only come to London, Laurel County a couple of times a year for the Chicken Festival and the ASA 3D archery tournament, or they're there for just visiting, they brought their RV, they decided to stay, and then they have become so enamored with the
Mhm.
community and so touched, and they're just wanting to give back in any way that they can.
I think what's incredible, I was listening to all of that, and you're mentioning about some people didn't have insurance. And for our listeners, it's not really even homeowners insurance, it's that flood insurance.
Flood insurance, yeah.
I mean, let's be real. I've always find that amazing that that's not part of your homeowner's insurance, but that's just me. But I think even from my point of view, just listening to what you said there, how many people think even in Tennessee, all the hurricanes, we think now, okay, that's all taken care of.
Mhm.
You know, people are back in homes. They've had homes rebuilt for them. I don't think people realize that, and I'm not blaming government or any party because we stay neutral of all that.
Right.
We try really hard, okay? Stay neutral of all that, but that our government isn't going into our own people
No,
and making sure, that they're well taken care of.
yes.
Nobody, now, how long ago was the flood?
2.5 years.
Yeah, there's absolutely zero reason in my head that anyone from that should be living inside of a tent.
No. But again,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
stay away from all of those things
Right,
myself.
so do I. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but
But
it is, but and again, it's one of those things. There's no reason that our veterans shouldn't be taken care of in this country, but
exactly, we've
they're not.
done shows on that. Yep,
And a lot of it's just that most individuals, and it's not anything malicious on their intent. They don't think about those things. I mean, Angela works in risk management for a large insurance company out of Portland, Maine. She works from home here at the townhouse, but we don't have renter's insurance, and we talked to ever since the tornado, we've talked about it, but we still haven't done it, and it's not like it's that expensive, and it's not like it's a whole lot of work, but it's not, top of mind. You don't, oh, the tornado hit, oh, we think about it now. Well, now we don't. And
right.
now what we do pay attention to now is the weather a lot more. I've been, like I said, I've been in London, Laurel County since 2019. I went away for 2 years. I came back last year. I paid attention to the weather when I was here. We never had anything like this. We never had a hurricane hit. We never had a tornado. Now, the last big one they had was in 2012, and that devastated an entire community here. Um, but it's just, you forget about it. You start doing other things. You start your hobbies back. You go back to work. It was funny. We had, of course, part of my job with the Chicken Festival is to get sponsors. And one of the large sponsors that we've had them every year, they were not able to sponsor this year because two of their employees had lost everything in the tornado. So they had taken the amount of money that they would be giving to the Chicken Festival
That,
and turned around and gave it. And you know what?
mhm.
I'm fine with that.
Right, yeah,
That's exactly what should have been done. You take care of your people. And that's exactly what they did. And they're like, we'll be back next year, but this year we've just done. And that's the other thing you mentioned, the fatigue that people go through. The other thing is when you have something like this, every organization's asking for money, and you feel like you have to give to every organization. And after a while, you just have to go, I can't give anymore.
hmm
And that's why I think, the county judge executive here in Laurel County, the mayor of the city of London, they designated the United Way as the main depository and distribution point for all funds. Give it to the United Way, they will oversee
and
it,
they will,
and
right.
they will take, and so I think that was an extremely well thought out plan. Because again, the other side of that is you get a lot of scammers, you get a lot of people claiming they're collecting for the survivors or for this or for that, and
hmm
people never see a dime of that money. And even those with bleeding hearts and the huge hearts, sometimes the heart doesn't match the size of the wallet, and you just
Right.
can't always give and give and give. So I
You know,
think there's
I live in Florida now, down in Ocala. So, we're entering into the nightmare time of the year, which is
yes.
hurricane season. Okay.
Mhm.
And same way, like you say, we watch the weather. Yeah, we watch every time they talk about another hurricane
Mhm.
coming, how far away from the coast is. And luckily, Jen and I picked Ocala, which is inland.
Yeah.
from both sides. It's like almost the middle from each of the oceans there. So we're fine as far as we get winds and nothing really major. But yeah, it can destroy. I
Yes.
mean, and being in the middle isn't any safe. Look at the last one that came through, went from one side to the other, the Gulf
Hmm.
of Mexico out to the
Okay.
Atlantic. I mean,
Yeah.
straight across. So I think a lot of times people, you mentioned scams. Scams are so prevalent now.
Mhm.
Okay. And as much as we even were talking about AI before time, AI is making videos and stuff that look real.
Oh, yeah.
I can still see the little bit of the difference between them. If you're paying attention, you can notice that a little bit. Faces are just not real
Hmm.
yet. Um,
I have a love-hate relationship with AI. We won't go into that.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's almost as bad as political conversations because
but
I understand and appreciate the technology, but I
mhm.
hate the way it's being misused, and I hate the fact that a lot of individuals are losing livelihood because of it. I mean, I know radio stations right now, they're letting their what few on-air people they have go, and they're just going with AI generated
Yeah.
programs.
Well,
And
I even joked with Eric last week, Dr. Davis, saying, we're going to be replaced
oh
because
yeah,
it's very easy for AI to make me and sit here and do an interview.
yeah.
I mean,
And
really.
so like I said, it's a love-hate relationship, but I use it sometimes. And a lot of it was funny when I was doing my master's. I had one professor, he required, and for this one particular project, we had to use AI. There was
Mhm.
no, he would not accept anything else. We had to show which platform we used, how we used it. And that was the first time that I had done anything with ChatGPT, or I think what's the Playground, I think is the one that allows the
There's so
graphic.
many of them. Yeah.
I know. So I had to do it, and I get it. It's very, very tempting to want to
Tempting.
focus and use that all the time. But I come from the media field. We're lazy enough as it is. I don't really like giving them another tool to make them lazy. So
Well, I'm very conspiratorial in my personal beliefs.
yes,
So I have that doom site. We worried as Christians about the end of times, but here AI is going to rush that one for us
James
really, really
Cameron has
quick.
been warning us this since the 80s with
Yes, I know that.
Terminator. I mean, he's been warning us not to do this.
And it's just the way it is. Let me sum up a lot of this.
Yeah.
What do you see happening with David's legacy? I'm sorry, for the next 5 years. Where do you see it going?
Well, I kind of laid out a little bit. We're wanting to
Right.
add the Cincinnati Children's Hospital and the
Hmm.
Louisville Children's Hospital. What I would love to see is for there to be more involvement from, first of all, those here in Kentucky. And then what I would like to see is in the next couple of years to have different chapters of David's legacy open in other states and doing the exact same thing because, it's easy. Cincinnati, Louisville, Lexington, all of those are, very close to each other. Pikeville Medical Center has a children's hospital. We can do that. But there's a lot of hospitals out there that need this kind of program, and they're in other states. And I would love to see people want to open David's Legacy chapters in other states and to see more national exposure through television, magazines, things like that, to just get people more aware and providing, like I said, that cathartic outlet. It is not easy for a parent to not only come to grips with the death of a child, but then to relive it. Because that does happen. Part of this whole process is you're reliving your own grief, trying to help someone else through theirs. And that is a very taxing emotional and psychological and mental state. But I do think it is definitely worthwhile. I've seen it do great things for Tanya, for her to open up the nonprofit and to start funneling her energy in a way that she is very passionate about. And then, like I said, Charles and his family, they've become very involved. Angela and I are very involved. Gary Conley and some of his Appalachia Strong and the Rotary. So, I mean, we're getting there. But like I said, we're only 2 years into being an official nonprofit. We founded it as a nonprofit in July. No, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, July of 2022. We made the announcement publicly because even when Tanya was delivering, she never let anybody know who she was. I mean, it was never publicized. She never talked about it. So from my standpoint, it was a great PR hook because I was able to say this anonymous donor for the past X number of years has now decided to come forward and tell their story. And that's exactly what she did. And it's given her a chance. And Angela and I are very proud to be part of it. I think that's, you saw about it on LinkedIn, and
Mhm.
I have tried to share it every time we do something as much as possible. And I sit on a lot of boards. It was funny. Angela and I went this morning to the country club to play golf, and I got a reminder about a board that I'm just on by proxy because I'm in tourism. It's an Eastern Highland, some kind of tourism thing. So I'm on that. I sit on two boards for tourism here in Laurel County, and then the Chicken Festival board and my own commission, and
And your own company.
and handling PR and all of that. So that all of these things that I'm involved in, but of all the things that I'm involved in, I love seeing what David's Legacy is able to do. And I love seeing what Appalachia Strong is doing. And I love that we're able to partner with them. Like I said, I want to get you and Gary connected because
Definitely.
you're
Yeah.
gonna you're gonna find him. He was one of the first individuals in the community that I met, came up, introduced himself, handed me his business card, invited me to Rotary. I went, and I've been a member ever since. I had to rejoin when I came back, but I've been part of this Rotary chapter with him since 2019. Angela met him. She adores him. She loves him to death. He's just that type of person. He is genuine. And sometimes he's too happy. I don't know how anybody can be that happy all the time because I know I can, but he is always happy. He's always got something positive. He does kind of a motivational segment on one of the local radio shows here. Started it when I was managing. It's called Minuteman Minute, and it's just a 60-second inspirational story. And then he gives you kind of like Paul Harvey's the rest of the story. He tells you
Right.
the story and then tells you how it can be applied to your life, and it's become a huge success for him. So what I'm really hoping, I guess, is that individuals will want to find out more about David's legacy, and it's very easy to do.
So if somebody wanted to help, then how
Yeah.
would they go about doing that?
I'm working on getting the website relaunched. We had some problems about a year ago. But right now we're using Facebook. It's facebook.com/growing David's legacy. You can go there. You can see all of the pictures, the press releases, the news stories, all of that is there. The email address is there. It's growingdavidslegacy@gmail.com if you want to reach out and find out how you can become involved, or if you want to make a donation, or if you want to ask more questions about how to start something where you are and continue the strength and the longevity of this legacy. That's exactly what we're looking for. And I appreciate folks like you, Steve, that give me the opportunity to come on and talk about these kinds of projects. And I will never turn one down. Um, although
Well,
I did almost forget tonight because, like I said,
yes, well,
we
that's
went and
what the
played,
texts are for good for.
we went and played golf, and then I came back and we ended up taking a nap. And I woke up and I'm like, I need to check my phone. I'm like, oh.
I mean, I was just sitting here playing card games on the computer. I was like, I know Travis. I'll hear from him shortly.
You hear from me?
All right, I got two very quick questions to
Yes,
ask you at the end here. On a personal level,
yes.
what has been the most meaningful moment you've experienced being part of David's legacy?
Uh, that's a tough one. Um, I have done, I'm gonna tell you, I've booked clients for decades on media, Fox News, local network affiliates, CNN, multiple magazines and newspapers and things like that. But the news story that was done 2 years ago, well, actually, I'm sorry, now 3 years ago. This is 2025. 3 years ago, when David's Legacy launched in 2022. The story that was done by a local network affiliate in Lexington, and it was picked up that same day by a syndicated program that runs in the Southeast. That was the very first time that I'd ever actually teared up and almost cried by seeing the story come to fruition and seeing someone tell a story that they'd never told before publicly. And that was it was a very emotional moment for me to see that. And then, every now and then, like I said, getting a picture from, one of the kids at the hospital that has been given a toy and the parents say, yes, you can take a picture and send it. Those are always worthwhile.
Mhm.
So that has been, I guess that's been the most, the only other time that I was impacted was when we went to Fleming Neon. Like I said, I had been to Fleming Neon numerous times, but when I drove into Fleming Neon during the flooding and I came around the curve into the downtown section, I literally started crying, and I'm not a crier, um, but it looked like somebody had set off an atomic bomb in this town. I mean, buildings were collapsing. There were big red X's on buildings, and if anybody has ever worked in a natural disaster with FEMA, a red X on the building is it's going to be
Means
demolished because
torn
people
down. Yep.
died there. And there were all of these all over the town, and piles and piles and piles of scrap and piles of clothing and toys and all of that. And then we went to the high school, which was the base of operation, and going in and seeing the fact that the week before, halfway up the building had been underwater, and then seeing all of that damage done, that really hit me hard. As I said, I've been there many times. It was a very small town. Didn't have a whole lot there to begin with. They've got even less now. And those are the two things that have really stood out since we started doing these types of things.
Yeah, I went through that very briefly in Indiana. A town called Holton, Indiana, had gotten literally leveled when the tornado came through. I mean, there was 95% of the town was destroyed. And I remember driving through and had gone through Holton many times.
Yeah.
I had a client actually that was there, and yeah, there's no words that can describe. You know, you see
No,
it on TV. We used to see with Katrina and all that. It's not the same
no.
when you know it, the area, and you're going through it. It's incredible. Last question for you, Travis.
Yep.
If David's legacy is one message for people that are going through hardship, what would it be? Because a lot of people are afraid to ask for help. They got that pride inside themselves. What would you say to them?
Um, I would tell them, first of all, yes, we do have a lot of problem with pride. We don't like asking for help. We don't like admitting that we're going through something. I think for David's legacy, if a parent or parents have lost a child, no matter what, stillborn, accident, terminal disease, overdose, if you've lost that child, find a way to make their memory last. Find a way to keep that memory alive. And I think if it's not David's legacy, then let it be some other organization that will help you and that you can help. And by helping that organization, you're helping yourself. And I guess it's kind of a reverse psychology because what I'm telling people to do is help somebody else, do that random act of kindness, and see how it impacts you. Don't be afraid to feel vulnerable. Don't be afraid to hide those tears. Don't be afraid to get emotional. One of the things I've done, as you know, I've had previous lives, not past lives, but previous lives. I was
That
a
would be a whole nother show.
That'd be a whole other show.
Yeah.
I was trained in grief counseling. I was trained in counseling after I took the counseling after it wasn't Columbine, it was one of the other, and it was before Sandy Hook. I can't remember which one, but it was being the first person on site to respond not only to the kids or the teachers, but also the first responders who were dealing with things. And I think one of those huge obstacles that we have to try to overcome is admitting, first of all, that this has happened and it's never going to get better. That's what I tell people. The pain, it doesn't go away. And I would be a liar if I told you that it did. It doesn't get better. It just changes over time. It becomes something. And Jimmy Buffett, whom I'm a huge Buffett fan, Parrot Head. We attended a Jimmy Buffett tribute concert last night here in London. But he draws a great analogy, and I'm not going to do it justice. But he talks about how that grief, if you're in a sailing boat, uh, grief is like the wake behind you. It can easily overtake you, but as long as you keep going forward, eventually the water's calm, you get rid of the wake, and it's just a distant memory. And I think, and again, I'm paraphrasing and I'm not doing the quote justice.
No,
You can find it,
you did
you
it
can
very
find it on
well,
my, You can find it on my Facebook page. I shared it the
Yeah.
other day. I think that's the true key. I've heard other counselors and pastors especially tell people, "Oh, it gets better, it gets better." No, it doesn't. Don't tell them it's going to get better. It doesn't get better. It gets different.
Right.
It'll be different tomorrow than it is today. Next year is going to be different than it was 5 years ago. It just gets different. And I think realizing that, and there's not a lot of people that will tell you that. Everybody likes to make you feel good, and there's, oh, it gets better with time. No, it doesn't. It doesn't get better. You can't lose a child and have it get better. You can't lose anybody. I mean, have it not get, have it get better. That doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. So in a roundabout way, that's my answer to your question, Steve.
And Dr. Davis would answer that too, saying that, unless you've actually lost a child too, you could say, I understand, but you don't,
No.
and that's what this entire show, Your Life Matters, is all about: mental health and trying to break that stigmatism of, okay, I need help,
Mhm.
whether it be mental or any kind of support, that there's no shame in that whatsoever.
There's not. But I guess it was about 2 years ago. Just a real quick side note.
Mhm.
My son, TJ, he just turned 22 in January. Leah just turned 21. He was still in high school, and one of his classmates committed suicide. And even though in my previous lives I had been a pastor and I had done funerals, TJ and Leah had never attended one. They even as children, they didn't attend. The first one that they attended was for my cousin Brent, who died in the spring of 2021. They attended that funeral with me, and then TJ and I went to his friend's funeral. And ironically, TJ he was okay, and because I kept asking him, wanted to talk, he was, no, I'm fine. I was not okay because I saw the parents sitting there, and I know I had been the person when I was with the sheriff's department knocking on the door and telling a family or a parent that their child was dead, whether it had been an overdose or a suicide or a car
Mhm.
accident. And I watched these parents just sobbing and crying, and they were inconsolable. And I see that in individuals when we're at these natural disasters. They just sometimes they're numb, and there's the lights are on but nobody's home. They're just moving through life. Same thing with when they've lost a child or something like that. It's everybody deals with grief differently. But even in dealing with it differently, there are still those same stages that we have to go through. It just may be at different points in time and things like that. But so I guess what I would say is get to the point where that you're able to realize it's not going to get any better. It is going to change, and you'll be able to adapt. Because I can't imagine if I were to get the phone call or somebody tell me that TJ or Leo were dead. I don't even like to think about it. But in the closing, I would say if you're in that position where that you want to talk to somebody, you want to you definitely need to reach out, find someone. I am not qualified to do that, just like I know Steve, you are qualified to do it, but
Here's
grief
what we always
counseling
tell
is
everybody. Every episode we say this: pick up your phone and dial 988.
yes.
Okay, we talk about that it comes up every single episode.
Yeah.
It's free, the call is free, and there's a professional standing by to talk to
And
that will
I
help
think
you.
talking does help.
Yeah.
But if you are interested in finding out more, like I said, it's facebook.com/
Mhm.
growing David's legacy. The email is growingdavidslegacy@gmail.com.
And in fact, you do have a website out there, growingdavidslegacy.org. And right now you have to type in a set of
Yes,
numbers.
it's numbers.
And that
And
link is actually in the description here.
yeah,
So if you want to click on
and
that to go there, but
that's the problem that I'm trying to figure out is why it's redirecting or adding that as the
when we
IP.
get off the air, this former web designer will explain
Yeah.
that to you. It's pretty easy. But Travis, thank you once again for joining us and sharing the incredible work of David's legacy. And everyone out there, please remember what started with a simple act of kindness, a teddy bear for a child, okay, and then bringing it to the hospital has grown into a mission of hope that reaches families facing floods, tornadoes, and unimaginable loss. Travis, thank you for joining us, and
My
I
pleasure.
hope we get to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us for this week's new episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Please be sure to join us again next Thursday for another great episode with your hosts, Steve Hodgson and psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis. Please remember to subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so, and hit the like button and leave a comment. Your help with this helps us reach a wider audience that may need our help.